Welcome back to True Story with John Gibson. Today's guest is an IFBB pro, IFBB Hall of Famer and promoter, super successful entrepreneur, Shawn Ray.
Wow, that sounds good. Jeez. We were talking earlier. I mean, the word IFBB pro stays with you for life. It's almost like you get your bachelor's, your MD, Absolutely. Your PhD. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, I still hang on to that moniker. It's been 20 years since I was on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you certainly deserved it. It's something that you earned far, maybe initially through trial and error, but you have to, at the point of IFBB pro status, you have your doctorate, you have your master's, you certainly have that's the pinnacle. So once you get there, you're an expert.
Well, yeah. And I tried to make sure that I didn't do all that for nothing, right? I spent 14 years on the pro scene. I competed from 17 to 35. 13 Mr. Olympia competitions, traveled the world. I did everything I wanted to do as a bodybuilder, of course, except win the Olympia, which is every bodybuilder's dream. And, it's like football. It's like basketball. Sometimes you don't win the Super Bowl and sometimes you don't win the NBA championships, but it doesn't discount the career. And the further away I get from the stage, the more appreciation I have for not only the time that I competed, that era, which was the 90s, the quality of athletes I was up against, the how far the bar was raised after post Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like Arnold was in 1980, I came along in 83, and Lee Haney took the ball and ran with it from 84, and then you came in with Dorian and Ronnie. I mean, just to be a part of that era of Hall of Fame bodybuilders with Flex and Labrada and Gaspari and Vince Taylor. I mean, it was just such a deep field. And now, and then you sit in the audience and you watch what's up there today. And look, we're looking at the best at what we have. But my frame of reference takes me back to a time and a place that I don't think we'll ever see again. And that level of competition, the depth of field, allows me to absorb not winning the Olympia title, because I know so many great bodybuilders also didn't win the Olympia title.
Right. Yeah. And I hate that that's even a caveat to your career, because you achieved so much. And in those 13 Olympia, appearances, I'm almost certain that you were in the top 5, all but one of them, maybe your first year, your first attempt, correct? So you were always not only in the mix, but you were somebody who could have taken it on any given year. And arguably, I'd say 2 of those years, it could have been your title. But yes, your era was uber competitive. We'll never see that again. I can't imagine. And you were more than a front runner, but more so. And I want to say this, there's a compliment in here for you, but you, as you mentioned, you walked away years ago, but you managed to stay completely relevant, and you're constantly contributing to the sport in many different ways, as a contest promoter, putting your money where your mouth is around, giving smaller bodybuilders opportunities, really incentivizing them to pose more, things like that. Can you sort of share a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I didn't want all that sweat equity to go to waste. I was more a fan than I was anything else. When I was a competitor, I was of the belief that on any given day I could win. I wasn't intimidated by the size of a Paul Dillette or Marcus Rule. I understood the dynamics of a David versus Goliath, because the guys before me had proven it was possible. Chris Dickerson, Samir Banu, Muhammad McAway, Lee Labrada, they proved to me that they could chop down a bigger bodybuilder, not necessarily a better bodybuilder. So I didn't buy into the belief that bigger was better. It was very intimidating to wake up and eat breakfast and look at pictures of Lee Haney and Dorian Yates and Ronnie Coleman throughout my career, knowing, I'm looking at the pictures in January and I'm going to be standing on stage with them in September in real life. It could be overwhelming. Sure. Bodybuilding for a lot of athletes is made up from of people that have a lot of insecurities, a lot of self-doubt, some obsessive compulsive personalities, some anorexia, bigorexia, and then you take that into the gym and you try to channel it into something that you can shape, sculpture, and create. And even then, a lot of bodybuilders they don't believe the progress. They don't think they're ready, and they don't think they're worthy. I remember Flex Wheeler told me, one of my favorite bodybuilders of all time, that he never believed he could win the Olympia. And here I was, a smaller version, same exact age, had some years on him in terms of getting to the pros early, but I always believed I could win the Mr. Olympia. I mean, there was only one reason I was in it. That's because I believed that I could win it. And I think that makeup, that psychology for me carried me a long ways in my bodybuilding career, probably further than most, even some of the bigger guys, because I didn't let self-doubt creep in. And Ronnie and even Lee were better than me. Like on any given day, I felt like if I put my product up there and I just do the work, I'll be recognized on some level. And while I didn't win that Olympia title, I parlayed myself as a product. When I turned pro, I started Shawn Ray Productions, and that was 1988. I started Shawn Ray Productions. I didn't know what I was going to be producing. I just know that watching Ron Howard, a child actor who grew up on gosh, now the name, the older you get, the harder it is to recall. Happy Days,
all those things.
Before Happy Days,
Andy Griffin.
Andy Griffin, right? So he's a kid actor on Andy Griffin. He grows up as a teenager on Happy Days. Then he moves behind the camera and he's producing film. And Hollywood has a saying that if you can get behind the camera, you have a career that's limitless.
Yeah.
You know, in front of the camera, your beauty and your age stereotype you into things that you can and you cannot do. A lot of the women would be out of work by the time they're 40 years old because they just got old and they want the young ones. But for me, learning and walking through the process of what a teenage bodybuilding experience is, winning a national championship, standing on that Olympia stage, watching the production. I mean, while some of the bodybuilders were there, self-tuned with what they had to do in front of this audience, I was looking at the production. I was looking at where the weights, what kind of weights do they have? How big is the dressing rooms? And how much does this building cost to put it on? What are they selling the tickets for? What kind of sponsors are involved with this thing? So I built up a pretty good Rolodex dealing with the people that actually grease the wheels to make the machine work. And so I was confident when I would go up and I would complain about the lack of prize money. I would complain about the fact that, you know, this posing around, that's part of my overall score. It's a joke. It's laughable.
Right.
I don't think Lee Haney in his 8 years of being Mr. Olympia ever lost the posing round. I don't think Dorian Yates did either. And if history serves it properly, go back and look at Ronnie Coleman. All of his wins in the posing rounds, he's got ones all the way down for 8 consecutive years. And you cannot tell me that these are great champions. Lee Haney, Ronnie, and Dorian.
But not the best posers historically.
No stretch of imagination. Yeah. Could they have? I believe Ronnie Coleman was trailing in the 2001 Olympia to Jay Cutler, and going into the finals. And Jay's not the best poser, but neither is Ronnie. But if you put them next to each other, I think Jay has an edge up on Ronnie in the posing department. And Ronnie came back to win. He made up ground. He made 8 points up, and he beat Jay Cutler, which was disheartening. That was my last Olympia. But I made sure that I got a full education. I surrounded myself with people smarter than me. While some of the bodybuilders were hanging out with other bodybuilders, I was hanging out with the promoters. I was talking with the sponsors. I wanted to learn how these things work, because when I was walking away from the stage, I wanted to be walking towards something that I could actually be a part of, something bigger than myself. And of course, I ran for the athletes rep.
Right.
They had me jumping through hoops, and I did get to the finish line and became the athletes rep, where I thought I could make an impact. And then I realized that working under the tutelage of Wayne D'Amelia, who was running the sport, there was going to be no headway. It was his way or the highway. He was a dictator that I had butted head with, and eventually he got fired and tossed. But Jim Mannion was a guy that was a study of consistency. Ben Weider that would listen. And of course, Joe Weider loved all of my ideas. So I was able to do some things after I retired that would coincide with all of those complaints as I was competing. I created the third largest bodybuilding show in 2006 and 2007 in Colorado.
Yes.
In terms of prize money, nothing bigger. The Olympia was bigger and the Arnold was bigger. Then I came along my very second year with prize money that was third on the whole calendar for the whole year, included bodybuilding, figure, and bikini. And
and little known fact, the winner of that first contest was none other than the very own and unknown at the time, Phil Heath.
Yeah, gave birth to Phil Heath in his own backyard. He was living in training in Colorado. He came out, and while it doesn't sound like a lot of money, $25,000.
Oh yes.
His first pro win. All the other shows were giving away 10.
Right.
Mind you, 2006, Phil wins his first show and he wins $25,000. My first pro win was in 1990 and I won $10,000. But in the year 2006, across the board, behind the Olympia, behind the Arnold, and behind the Shawn Ray Classic, All the other shows in 2006 were $10,000 shows.
Man,
You know, like as big as the sport had
I
grown,
know. Yeah.
no one was giving away anything. So I'm here
Right.
complaining about giving away prize money. And by the way, I was giving out $10,000 to my bikini and figure girls,
Right.
and I gave away a $10,000 award
Yeah.
to the best poser. You know who got that check?
No, who got that one?
Kai Green.
Kai Green
got
of
that
course.
check, and that
Amazing
check parlayed his career another year. He came back the following year in 2007 after he finished dead last, and he won my second show, and got a $25,000 check and a $10,000 award. So I was very proud
Wow.
that I was able to put my money where my mouth is, because people were saying, you know, I'm complaining about the prize money. Even some of the judges are complaining about the prize money. Do something. So I did.
Yeah.
And of course, then I was complaining about the disenfranchising of the little guys, and with the IFBB, with Jim Manning, created the 202-pound division. And the very first show was the Shawn Ray 202-pound show.
Right.
I wasn't making a big stink about it. I wanted it to lay low. I combined it with Steve Weinberger's New York Pro.
Right.
Came up with all the prize money, first, second, third, and fourth, and David Henry won that 202-pound division, and he went on to win the very first 202 Olympia championship.
Right.
So when I look back at some of those things, yeah, I'm a little bit, I surprised myself, because the things I complained about, I did something about. When I talked about those guys that are getting these free posing rounds that help win the competitions for them, I wanted to recognize the people that I really believe were the best posers, because I know a thing or two about posing.
Yes.
And I would bring in other athletes to give me their opinions on what they thought before I awarded these checks. And I was giving away for 4 years $10,000 to the best poser, of which Melvin Anthony won, Darren Charles won. Gosh, I'm still thinking of that guy. He lives in Arizona. He won the North America. I forget his name. But I spread the wealth around. Right. And then what they did was they just got away from the posing round altogether. They just said it doesn't count anymore. So they stopped scoring it. So I moved on. That was a challenge for myself. I did it for 4 years. You know, it's $40,000 I raised and I gave away. Mm-hmm. And then I looked around, and in our sport, there was no charities being done. Nobody was doing anything charitable. So I created a golf tournament for Children's Hospital out in Orange County.
Yeah.
And I ran a charity golf tournament with the bodybuilders, Ms. Olympias, Fitness Olympias, and we came together, raised $55,000 in the course of 2 years to give away to charity. That was spearheaded by me. I hate to sound like I'm patting myself on the back.
No, not at all. These are really important contributions, Shawn. And let me pause you for a moment too, because there's a lot to kind of unpack there. And it's really, you're a fascinating person to me, and especially in this sport, because, we're still in some ways a niche sport, which is crazy to me, but you're pretty polarizing to certain people. And I've never understood it ever.
I'll tell you, I've never actually absorbed it. It's like, boom, it hits me. I hear it. I see
Don't
it.
change, because we need you. We need you, and you have, look, I admired you. I'm 38 years old. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you were doing your thing the year I was born, 1983. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but let me put that in perspective. I grew up on the magazines, and then, watching you, working out on ESPN, body shape, these different things. And then they're, into the internet age and your retirement, and you always stayed relevant, but I've seen you change too, as I've grown up. And, you have done things for this sport that are so much bigger, and you've contributed in ways that are so much more important than what you did as a competitor, which is crazy to say, because you were an amazing competitor, Hall of Fame career. But things like this, and I'm going to give a couple examples, because you've touched on them already, a couple of things. You've always paid homage. You're a historian. You were a big part of the documentary about the Weeders and Mr. Olympia getting that produced. The sport owes you for that. You've always paid homage to guys like John Brown, who mentored you and introduced you to posing and the important things of aesthetics, elegance, how to treat yourself and hold yourself in public as a professional.
Yes,
this is important stuff,
Yes.
And people don't give you credit for that. And then I'll say one more thing. And then this is almost a rant. I apologize. This is me defending you in some ways. Even on controversial issues, where everybody has a right to their opinion in this beautiful country of ours. Yeah. I'll say, and we don't have to get into it, but we'll just say the Chad Nichols or guru sort of a thing. Yeah. You have been proven correct. Yes. And whether it's controversial or sensitive enough, at the end of the day, whether fortunate or unfortunate, you're the only person in the room, the adult, saying, hey guys, this doesn't look good or safe or okay. and then you're ignored or you get, criticized, and then bad things happen. So
I think sometimes experience has a way of revealing itself after the lesson, right? When you've been there and you've done that, it's like telling your kid, don't play with the fire. It's hot. You can get burned. And kids fascinated by the fire and the smoke and the brilliance of the colors and all that stuff. The next, you hear, ouch. Right. Well, you're sitting over here going, I already know that's going to burn. I already know it's going to be hot because it's burned me before. Right. I came down the road that these kids that are competing today, I've been down the road long before they were, and I studied it, which is another element that's missing from a lot of the athletes, right? I studied it, and I got to give Mike Tyson some credit. Like as much as I mentioned John Brown, I mentioned Mike Tyson because from a distance, I studied him. Like I wanted to be him on a bodybuilding level. We were close to or on about the same age, and he had Customato. And I looked at John Brown as my Customato because I didn't have anybody in bodybuilding that was in my ear. Mike's real quick to tell you and cry that Customato told him he could be something. Like he didn't believe, he thought he was just going to be in jail and then be dead before he was 40.
Right.
But Customato took this teenager and said, you're going to be the heavyweight champion of the world. Now, if someone takes you as a teenager and tells you something, that someone of influence,
right?
Someone that you respect. Like I was watching John drive up in a Mercedes. I was watching John going into places and they would announce him as 2-time Mr. Universe. I'd see him talking to and looking eyeball to eyeball with some of the Anaheim Rams when they played in Anaheim. I mean, the respect that he was gaining from the work that he was putting in the gym was resonating outside the gym. And then you're in the shadow of that. When you're in the shadow, it's a big shadow because I'm a teenager and John's a man. And there's 10 years separating us. And he's living on his own and he's paying his bill. He's speaking German on the phone. He's leaving the country, stamping his passport. He's coming home and opening his suitcase and there's just money falling out of it. And you're a teenager going, this is all legal?
Yeah.
And he's on the magazine cover. I'm thinking, yeah, I want that for myself. Like, how do I get it? Well, I liken it to Mike Tyson because Customato's telling him and showing him films of the old great fighters and he's teaching him and he's putting him in the gym and he's keeping him off the streets and he's feeding him like a champion. And he's telling him you're going to be a champion. John Brown's telling me I could be Mr. Olympia at 17 years old. We're going to bodybuilding shows and I'm watching people win and he's telling me you can beat that guy. I'm trying to understand what is it that he sees that I don't see. Because when he takes me to the gym, he beats the shit out of me. Like I'm a sparring partner. I'm the guy changing the weights for him. Right. So it was only a year. It was from 17 to 18. A lot of people think it was, I talk about John as if he was there every day, but it was a 1-year experience with John Brown from 17 to 18. But there was no falling out. I was in high school, then I went to college and John was, he was a man, he was running his businesses and he was a clothing manufacturer. He didn't have time to just carry me everywhere. I followed him everywhere. Right. So learning from a distance, listening to him tell me what I could do. And then somewhere along the way, I believed it. And then when I was training with other people, I took on the persona of John Brown. I was beating the shit out of people, right? Like my thing was, you're not going to come and train with me and walk away and make it seem like it was fun. John pounded me to the ground. I threw up many times. I laid down and I quit on the man. I left the gym at times when I probably shouldn't. And when you get home, you start thinking he's still at the gym training. Fucking drive all the way back, right? And when I drive back, he's leaving the gym and I'm left to my own devices. Like, well, I'm going in. I'm going to finish the workout. Damn it! I'll see you tomorrow. And he liked the idea that there was no quit. Right? I was a dog on a bone. And so then I'd come home and I'd be watching Mike Tyson fights and I'd be seeing that he's my age. I'm like, I could be the Mike Tyson of bodybuilding, but my fights have to take place in the gym with my sparring partners. Yeah. So you can only count reps. We're doing drop sets. We're doing heavyweights. I'm doing everything that John did. And somewhere I woke up and I was like, Mr. California. And when I put perspective on it, I'm like, Mr. California, that's Bob Paris.
Yes.
That's Roy Liedlmeyer.
Yes.
That's Troy Zuccolata, who later became my training partner.
Yeah.
There was a laundry list of bodybuilders that had won the California. Tom Touchstone, I remember. The year after me, it was Rick Stevenson. And then ultimately it was Flex Wheeler and Chris Cormier, Dennis Newman, Ray McNeil. These guys all catapulted into the pros. So when I won the Cal, I had Mike Christian paying attention to me, telling me, here's what you need to do. You do cardio? No, you need to do cardio. You eat fish? No, you need to eat fish. Are you posing enough? I said, I pose. I'm working with John, but you need to pose every day. So I'm getting all this positive reinforcement that the possibilities of being a national champion would then put me up there with Lee Haney, Bob Paris, Mike Christian, Gary Stridham, Phil Williams, and boom, there I was 4 years out of high school, a national champion. And that gave me all the confidence I needed because now I'm working with and for Joe Weider.
Yes.
It was a very important run from 17 to 21 for me. And at that time, I believe that nothing could stop me. My confidence was through the roof. And this is where Shawn Ray Productions began. And I said, you know what? I started emceeing shows. I started taking voice and diction when I was in college. I took acting for the camera. I went on a few auditions in Hollywood to just put myself out of my comfort zone. And if you've never taken an acting class, that can be more intimidating than walking on stage and posing trunks.
Yes.
You're in a classroom with 30 people, right?
Oh my God.
And then they give you a piece of paper. You got to memorize these lines. And then you got to go meet up with this other person you don't know.
Yes.
And you got to make this stuff look like the conversation we're having, so it's believable with the lights down and everyone's watching. So I got uncomfortable to make myself better. And then next I'm a commentator on ESPN. Then I've got my own workout show on ESPN.
Right.
And of course, I still had to do the business. I had to perform at a high level, and by performing at a high level, it gives you more opportunities. So I got a glove deal. I made some DVDs. I'm speaking on ESPN. I'm hosting a workout show. I'm on the cover of the magazines.
Every magazine. Yeah.
Internationally known. I'm flying around the world. And so suddenly I am doing the business of bodybuilding. And when you're able to tap into a couple of businesses, you realize there's other things. Wow. I don't have to just endorse supplements. Maybe I can do a gym.
Right.
In that gym, there's clothing. Wow. So there's also shoes. There's all these other things.
Yeah, you were everywhere, and it was so inspiring. And especially, I was a bodybuilding fan. I didn't have the genetics for it, but I was always an athlete and competed in sports and stuff. But I admired you on such another level because, you're delivering. You're top 3 or whatever at the Olympia. And then you have, you're working with gym equipment. You're doing this magazine shoot. You're dating Brooke Burke. Just all these crazy things are happening. This guy was just like, you were just slaying it. And to your point, you were staying very busy. A lot of these opportunities, I guess, presented themselves because you were so busy.
Well, I can tell you, I didn't have a lot of friends, and I didn't have a lot of girlfriends because I learned early on with John Brown's counseling that it's hard to serve two masters, right? Either you're going to love what you do and become the best at it. I remember Muhammad Ali has the quote. He says, work hard every day so you can live like a champion the rest of your life. So John was like, you fall in love. Now you're going to have to decide whether you're going to the gym. You're going to have to decide whether she's happy. You're going to have to try to please someone that's not on the journey that you're on. Date these girls, have fun with these girls. Don't fall in love. Don't get anybody pregnant. Stay the course. And it was just a conversation, but it's one of those conversations that 30 years later, it sounds like yesterday, and it served me well because I waited till I was done, and I witnessed a lot of athletes that couldn't even concentrate, couldn't even eat their food, couldn't go to the gym because their relationship had issues at home. They had kids that were calling them to do other responsibilities. And here I was, training in Newport Beach, going to Las Vegas and living at my house over here and flying out on a moment's notice. I didn't have to report to anyone. So for me, it was easier. Yeah. And I watched Flex and I watched Chris and I watched Paul, all of them having these girl issues that would complicate their prep. And I thrived off of their drama because I was coming home to a dog. Right. And it doesn't matter what day of the week it is. When you come home to your dog, that's nothing but love. Right.
Nothing but love.
Yeah. And so there's a time and a season for other people to kind of come into your life. But for me, I was a soldier at war. I was in my head. I was mentally the Mike Tyson of 1986 to 89. Yeah. And to whom much is given, much is required. And some people of lesser fortitude will allow the noise to come in and distract them from their mission. We watched that happen to Mike in 1990. He went to Japan, got knocked out by Buster Douglas, and he was never the same. Married Robin Givens, got with Don King. While he stayed relevant, he stayed relevant losing fights, not winning fights.
Right.
And he was working on a different scale because he had the power of television and the former heavyweight champion title. For me, I saw bodybuilding as a vehicle to try to go Hollywood, but at the same time, I was of the opinion that when I got there there's a lot of stuff that nobody was doing. And if I only had that title, the Mr. Olympia title, I could open so many more doors. So that got me out of bed. Losing got me out of bed, because my pursuit of trying to win that title, I thought it's the holy grail. If I just get this, then everything else will open. And where I go, I can lift everybody else up. And of course you had Dorian. He'd come and he'd win the title, take it back to Europe, and we'd never hear anything. Right. I mean, he's doing his thing over in Europe, but here in the States, Dorian wasn't on the circuit, right? You didn't see him. You didn't see him at Gold. You didn't see him on TV. And I had bigger ideas. Oh, sorry about that. I had bigger. Did you lose me?
No, you were here.
I had bigger ideas of what the Mr. Olympia looked like for me. The Mr. Olympia looked like a guy that was like the Heisman Trophy winner. It looked like the heavyweight champion. And I wanted to be on Jay Leno, right? I wanted to be on Arsenio Hall and all these things. So instead, I got what I could. I went on the dating game. Like I said, I dated a Victoria's Secrets model. I dated a Raiderette. I had my fun, and none of which would be possible if I didn't do the work.
Of course.
So the catchphrase for me always is, listen, all these things can be added, but you have to do the work. And the one year that I wasn't prepared, in 1988, my first Olympia, disappointment to a lot of fans because they thought I'd walk in and do all these things. But my workload got so big outside of the gym that never existed before I won the national championships, that I didn't have the time to do the business of eat, sleeping, and training. And when I got humbled that year, 13th or 14th place, I looked over my shoulder to see who was behind me. And, I took out Albert Beckles. I took out Tony Pearson. I took out Robbie Robinson. Wow. I beat the future gladiator, who's 6'8", 200 or 300 pounds, Rolf Mueller. Yeah. I mean, I had some. I go, even when I was off, I was on. So I said, I'm coming back, and I'm never going to be in this position again. And of course, after that, I was in the top 5. But
always,
when it ran out, and I realized that the lights were going out on my career because Ronnie Coleman was on his 4th Mr. Olympia. I'm smart enough to know that it didn't matter what I did, what I took. I was not going to be Mr. Olympia. I was okay with that. Yeah. And me talking about the mass monsters and the bubble guts and the lack of rotation of judges and the lack of prize money increasing down from 10th place below, I knew I wasn't going to be able to change anything while I was on the stage. So let me get off the stage and see what I can do. And that's when all these other things were added. My muscle camps were added. Yes. The commentating was added as an expert commentator, which I've been doing 30 years now. Right. Last year, they tried to do cancel culture. They tried to cancel me because they didn't like my opinions. But, I brought
a big contribution to the sport, though. I want to compliment your efforts there, too, because as a fan, we take for granted, bodybuilding is maybe the most subjective of sports, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. However, unless you have somebody truly explain to you what you're looking at, it's like any fine art. You don't really know, the devil's in the details. So your commentating is actually, in my opinion, I think you're probably the premier, probably the best, gold standard. And then Bob Ciccarello is right there. But, detailing and describing aesthetics and what it means to have broader shoulders and a wider waist and paper thin skin. These are things that if this were my first time seeing a show right now, I need somebody like you to help me understand and process what I'm seeing. And I think that you gave me, at least as a fan for years, that understanding, that blueprint to help me understand and interpret what I was looking at. I mean, you're one of the best.
Yeah, well, now we have people with opinions that can chime in real time. And so everyone has feelings, right? Like nobody wants to be criticized. And if I criticize the athlete, I'm indirectly talking about their coach, because now every athlete, it seems, has a coach, which didn't exist when I came up. So my frame of reference is not, it doesn't always resonate when I'm talking about one athlete, because when I'm talking about him, I'm talking about the trainer that he pays. And the trainer's typically more sensitive than the athlete, because I'm criticizing his work. So there's a couple people, that I have to be mindful of when I'm analyzing a physique. I try not to censor myself.
Sure.
I want it to come out organically. I want it to be in real time. And listen, they wouldn't hire me if I didn't do the job correctly. So many, these guys, they try to come out with the cancel culture. Oh, well, so-and-so has more followers. Maybe he should be the commentator. Oh, this other guy, he's nicer. I don't, it's noise. Listen, this job is not the only thing that I do. It's a portion of what I do.
Right.
If I wasn't doing it this year, I'd be doing something else. I mean, maybe I could sit back in the audience and actually watch the Mr. Olympia. I haven't had that luxury and I would welcome it. But haters would be like, "Oh, they finally got rid of that asshole." I mean, they're out there, and I need those guys. I need to hear the criticism, because I do know you can get very comfortable, and sometimes I feel like at times I am the Simon Cowell of bodybuilding, because it's a sport of critique. It's not what you have. These bodybuilders, they know if they got great legs, they know if they got great arms. When I was competing, I got so many pats on the back. But when that other person told me, you're holding a little water in your hamstrings, it looks like you could have bigger triceps to match up with your biceps. You got to work on your chest, your upper pecs. I could take that home and do something with it.
Right.
I can't do anything with you telling me I'm a great poser, because it doesn't elevate my game. I can't do anything with you telling me my color on the stage looks great. I mean, compliments are great when you're feeling down. But, I'm trying to become a better bodybuilder. So I need to go to someone that can tell me what the hell I need to work on.
Yeah, you need something constructive. Yeah.
I try to give that. But at the same time, if you're going to walk out on stage with pink hair and you don't tell me before the show, it's going to be questionable, because I come from a place where nobody was out on stage with pink hair, right? Like the most exotic you got was maybe a couple of earrings. Right. A few guys had some tattoos that they tried to
Chris
cover
Cormier
up.
with a tattoo was like a big deal.
Yeah, and Barry DeMay. I remember Barry DeMay had one. I mean, and everyone tried to cover him up, and now it's like free reign, right? It's part of the look. But I don't come from that era. So if you come out there looking like you did 20 years in San Quentin with all these tattoos, it's hard to ignore the elephant in the room when I'm looking at your physique and I can't acknowledge your tattoos. And if I'm doing it derogatory, you get pissed at me because I'm saying the ink is just messing up the flow. It's not it's not something I can relate to. Next thing you know, I'm getting messages, DMs, whatever. Why are you so fascinated with the ink? Talk about his physique. It's nuts. It can be nuts.
Yeah.
I love it though. I mean, listen, analyzing the sport of bodybuilding is great. I stay diversified. I've always been diversified. Promoting shows for me is even better, because it's not about me. It's the expression of coming from an artistic background. John Brown was an artist. He taught me the art of posing. But when you put together a show where you have to get medals, you got to get trophies, you got to get the venue, you got to secure the hotel, you got to get your judges, you got to get the tanning company, hair and makeup. You've got to factor in how much money you have to spend on your expediters and your security detail. You have to have an EMT on. You have to pay the NPC and the IFBB Pro League for a sanction fee. I added a pro classic physique division. I got to come up with the prize money for that. Then I've got to find people that can help the machine work. I need a right-hand man, because I'm in California. My show's in Hawaii. I need a lot of right-hand men in Hawaii. I've got to go to Hawaii. I got to visit all these gyms and all the stores. I got to talk to trainers. I got to encourage the athletes. There is so much that goes into a show that by the time you get there, you come up with a finished product, right? It's just the poster. You look at it and it looks like graffiti. But when you look at this thing, like the Fit Doc, Real Leader, it's an Olympia qualifier. It's an IFBB show. It's an NPC Amateur National Championship qualifying show. I got sponsors down here that, these guys are the contributors to make it happen. I have to recognize my sponsors. I've got to recognize my partner who brought the pro division. I've got to get all the details, the date, the venue, the hotel, and then I've got to deal with all of that stuff. And then I got to go there. I got to go to Hawaii, and then I got to make sure that everything, the music is right. Everyone registers properly. Everyone's in their specific class. They have the buttons on their thing. I got to make sure the head judge has all of his stuff, the scorekeeper. When you pull that off, it's like being a maestro, man. I feel like I'm at a freaking symphony, and I cannot be sitting there at the microphone being an MC when I've got to make sure the fans are good. You got your water over here. You got Wi-Fi working over here. How's our security doing over there? What's the ticket sales look like? There's so much going on, and I freaking live for that, because nothing worse than an idle mind. I look across at some of my peers, and they're still playing PlayStation. I'm 55. I got friends that are just sitting at home playing PlayStation, experts at PlayStation. They don't get paid for it. Guys that now some joint pain, some injuries and stuff, and they'd rather just kind of get high and talk about the benefits of CBD, but not make any money off of CBD or THC or whatever it is, because now it's legal. So I just, I'm gonna lay back, and I can't rest. It's still a global enterprise. There's work to be done. There's athletes to influence. There's ideas to implement. And so,
well, let's talk about that a little bit, about, your new work and your exciting partnership with Mutant,
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal for me, because I've worked with numerous the supplement company I worked for back in 2006 and 7 and 8 allowed me to create the Shawn Ray Classic, to give all that money away. Like, it wasn't just me going in the bank, and I worked with a company that worked with me where I was able to pay it forward. So think about all the people that benefited from that weekend, from our pro bikini and our pro physique, pro bikini and pro figure, to our open men's bodybuilding, and then our NPC division, right?
Right.
This wasn't in a high school auditorium, dude. I rented out the convention center in downtown Denver where Oprah Winfrey was at the weekend before I got there.
Right.
So working with supplement companies has advantages. I consider myself a marketing and a brand ambassador. I'm pretty good at networking and marketing. So I offer my services to help distribution, help spread the word about the product, help promote the brand. And now finally, we'll be creating a specific Shawn Ray brand that I'll be a part of the formulation. I've never done that before.
Wow.
So when there's something you've never done, you look forward to it. It's like,
of course,
when you make a bunch of movies that you star in, and then suddenly you produce a movie, it's a different thing, right?
Right.
So now I'm working with a company where we already have it in mind about the Shawn Ray Signature Series that we're going to be working on coming in 2022. I'm really looking forward to that. But nonetheless, the creative aspect of bodybuilding for me, it revolves around supplements, because when I got signed with Joe Weider, he owned supplements and the magazines.
Yes.
And we married the two, the Victory line and the magazine. So where I went, I was like kind of a representative of both. In this situation with Mutant, which is the headquarters are in Vancouver, Canada. I flew home yesterday. And getting into Canada right now is bananas, but that's another story. Met with the owners, met with the major players over there, toured the facilities, which are it's exactly what I thought they were, a very reputable company. And had the official signing with the company. The good takeaway was about camaraderie, was about progression, was about expansion, was about globalization. They hit all the keywords I wanted to hear in a supplement company, because the things that they want, they need someone like me to help implement. Yes. So now I'm at a point where I'm working with a company where I can maybe bring back that Best Poser Award and give somebody else out there an opportunity to get financially compensated for doing the business of working and entertaining us. That's why we go. We want to see something beautiful, something that somebody actually thought about doing, instead of these guys walking out there to background noise and hitting muscle shots. And we leave like, what did he just pose to? I don't remember the fucking pose. Do you remember what song Mr. Olympia posed to? Of course.
It's a shame. I've done one bodybuilding show, and it was in 2006. It was an NPC show. And I worked 6 or 7 weeks on my posing routine. And I copied move for move Bob Paris's routine in the 83 Mr. Olympia. Because it was incredible. The most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Not that I looked anything like that guy, but I thought that's what I want to look like. I think
84 Olympia.
84, the documentary one with all of them.
Was it the national? Was it the natural that he posed to? Because he won the nationals.
Yes,
he won the nationals in '83.
Yeah, it was to the natural in '83, and beautiful. And he did a lot of silhouette stuff. He'd get down on his knees, and
you saw he put in the work, right? He put in the work, and I mean, it was nothing was left to chance. It was So where I was going is working with a supplement company like this. These are the things I'm talking to them about. Look, you want me to work with you? Here's some deliverables that I need from you guys. I'll do what you need me to do. But what I want to do is I want to bring back the Best Poser Award so these guys, can entertain us, so we can elevate the bar. Okay. I want to bring back my golf tournament. I want to bring back a celebrity golf tournament where I can put Miss Olympia, Mr. Olympia, Miss Physique Olympia, the national champion, the USA. I want to bring them on the golf course. Yes. And I want to raise money that we can give away to somebody that can actually use it. We'll figure out what that charity is. But I know how to do it because I've done it before. Okay, yeah. Yes. Yeah, we like this. It's good branding for the company. Yeah, it is. We also introduce everybody to our products. I said, I also want to bring back my muscle camps. I did muscle camps in Ireland. I did it over in Chile, did one in Australia, did it in South Africa, did it in Las Vegas. I've done muscle camps here in California. So I know how to do those, and it takes a partnership to do it. So I told them, listen, this is branding for your company too. I'm going to bring back my muscle camps, and I want to bring my friends with me. So not only now that I'm retired, it's like I could bring back Hall of Fame bodybuilders to these muscle camps. Maybe you'll have the chance to come out and train with Lee Haney, Lee Labrada, Gaspari, myself, and Flex Wheeler.
This would be huge. This is so exciting. Yeah.
So this is part of what I was pitching, that I can put. They don't have to do the work. Let me put it together. Yeah. And you guys help me bring it to life, right? Yeah. And who benefits from that? Me? I've already done this. I've done it my whole life.
Right. The
the
fans,
up
but
and
also the competitors. You giving an
absolutely,
opportunity for the current national champions and retired pros and active pros to all come in for the golf event, for example, or to give
absolutely,
seminars. This helps them expand their brands as well as
absolutely.
Mutant as the overarching umbrella. This is a great
Yeah.
idea.
And see, with social media being what it is, everybody's going to be on their social media. You know, if you're invited to play in the golf tournament, you're going to show your fans that where you're at. Well,
Yes.
that's another branding tool for us that we're actually not having to pay for. So
Yeah.
those are some of the moves that I'm making, and I think that they saw in me that I wasn't hoard out with the supplement company. Like I was with a few companies over the course of 30 years, but I wasn't oversaturated. I'm not jumping from one company to another just trying to sell something.
True.
And they're not looking at me as a salesperson. They're looking at me to help market and brand and open up my Rolodex and increase their visibility on a global scale, which is very easy for me to do.
Yes.
So getting back with those guys and them seeking me out felt really good. It's like almost being an actor and they call you back and they go, "You got the role."
Great.
And then that role happened to be like Black Panther, right?
Yeah.
I feel like
exactly.
I feel like
it's perfect for you. Yeah.
I feel like it's a really good because it's not about me. This is where and I can't try to convince my haters, but this is where some of the bodybuilders that are actually doing the business that don't have contracts are going, why in the hell is he getting a contract? He's fat, he's old, he hasn't done anything. Why would I've been training my ass off? I compete every year and nobody's looking at me. Well, a lot has to be said for someone's resume. I have my PhD in bodybuilding, right? You're still working your way up, but guess what? By me being in this organization, I'm able to now be in a position to reach out and grab a young cat and help elevate him up here and go, you know what? Get on our products, implement them into your program. Let's find out what works, what's good, how you can utilize it, and let me mentor you. And then if you get to where you need to be, the next level is what we all want, which is a paid contract, right? So why wouldn't a supplement company who grabs a young guy coming up, who gets to the pros, wins in the pros, reward them?
Yes.
I'm on the inside of a company that has the ability to write that check, and they know it.
Yes.
So that's what they want. They want somebody that has the experience that I have. So for the haters out there going, why Shawn Ray? He hasn't done anything. Why is he getting these deals? And what is he? Whose ass is he kissing? You got to remember that criticism you're giving me, you might be the guy that winds up getting the contract because of me.
Exactly right. They need to sit down underneath the learning tree and just listen to what you're saying, because what you're saying is completely accurate. And if they're smart, they will look. If they're smart, they would use you as the mentor you're putting yourself out there to be. But moreover, you've done all of it. You've been there. You've done that. You understand it. But you were the only person that could have this role because you have an international presence. And another thing too, one thing, you touched on this, and I'm glad you said it. The haters, they need to be quiet, because I'm a Shawn Ray fan. And I'm telling you, one of the things I admire about you, one of the many, right, is that you were able to, again, we touched on a little bit, but when you decided, hey, I'm retiring, you were able to let go of the obsessive compulsiveness of bodybuilding.
Absolutely was.
And you're living in a physical form that's still healthy. You still go to the gym, you still watch what you eat, but you're also able to be a human being and normal. Yeah. And very few can achieve that. So if anybody is throwing a stone at you for that, that's very silly, because it's one of the most admirable things about you, I think.
Well, thank you, because I spend a lot of time trying to be normal, because I hate to use I have to use the analogy, but some people come after you anyways. For me, bodybuilding is a soldier at war. I didn't think of it as something that was fun. Okay. Like, you can get hurt bodybuilding and people die.
Yeah.
I'm not defending my country, but I'm fighting for the food that I'm putting on my table, and I'm going up against, these B-52 bombers and these bazookas. These guys are throwing everything they can to take me out. And I risk my health and my longevity every day I go into the gym, because I'm pushing myself to a place that is not meant for a regular person to go. A regular person couldn't come in the gym and do the things I do. And I always knew, as a professional, I only took my shirt off when it meant something. Like, you want to see me, you got to pay me.
Interesting. Wow.
Strippers don't just dance; they dance for money, right? Singers don't go around and sing unless they're getting paid to sing. I didn't want to be that guy who trains so hard in the gym, who's walking down the beach with my shirt off for free. You want to see me? Come to the Olympia. There's a reason I didn't do a bunch of contests. There's a longevity factor. And when I wasn't training for competition, I could use my mind to monetize my body. And that's not something you verbalize to your competitors. It's not something you want to share with, Flex or with Kevin and let these guys in on that. But they were making their money off of their bodies the best way they could. I mean, Vince Taylor was one of the winningest bodybuilders when he retired. Yes. Kevin Levrone, one of the winningest bodybuilders. I don't know if winningest is a word, but Flex Wheeler, 20-something. And then they people will turn around and they'll go, Shawn Ray only won 2 shows. And I said, how is that? Shawn Ray won the Ironman and the Honor Classic. So we're talking about a Hall of Fame bodybuilder that won 2 shows. We can't talk about him in the same sentence as Dexter Jackson. I never asked to be in that conversation. But what I will tell you, and history will show forever, that in the 3 times that Dexter was going up against me, 99, 2000, 2001, he never beat me. Yeah. And I can say that. I can also go around bragging about the fact that, Ronnie won 8 Mr. Olympias, but I beat Ronnie for 5 years before he won his first one. Right. So I find my little anecdotal victories, which are all valid. They're not fictional. No. They're feathers in my pillow, right? Because I'm old. I can't go back and change anything. But there are some empirical data that back up why I'm okay with the fact that Dexter is the winningest bodybuilder. Dexter had the longevity factor. He 21 years as a pro. We'll never see it again. Yes. He won 9 Arnold Classics. We'll never see that again. Right. He won a Mr. Olympia title. He won the Masters Olympia. Right. I mean, I was there for all this shit. The one I missed was the South Africa Arnold that he won. People want to pit me and compare me with Dexter Jackson and compare resumes, but there is no comparison when you start talking about these types of careers because they're totally different and they shouldn't divide us. Me and Dexter were cool and we were friends, and then our careers, we let the noise start to divide us from what was coming in from other people. And I'm a little bit older than Dexter, so I think sometimes when I talk very factual and matter of fact about the comparisons in our physique, I think he took some of it like I was taking the shine off of his. Dexter is a great, phenomenal bodybuilder. Oh, of course. Michael Jordan was a great basketball player in the same framework as LeBron. Right. The competition and the errors are different. Yes. They're both great in their own right. So exactly. I just what I started seeing and hearing on social media was like one of us has to be better than the other. And when you hear people trying to make the other guy out to be better, you want to remind them that well, he has all this. I did this, but he never beat me. And so me and Dexter were able to squash that negative comparison because it's not a fair comparison. No, it's not. And I was able to find with my wisdom in my age, I was able to find satisfaction. And listen, 1995, Dexter won like the middleweight, light heavyweight at the USA's or nationals, whatever. I was already in Olympia like 4 or 5 years, and I got to interview him coming into the pros in 95. And I was there at his final Mr. Olympia and never missed an Olympia that he was in, by the way, to do interviews with him and watch him through that process. So I've watched careers start partially because of me, and I've watched them end, and I was still there. I never left the sport. So I don't want anybody to think that there's bad blood between me and Dexter. Have we had our differences? Have we had our arguments? Of course we have. It's like politics. It's like the red states and the blue states. It's the Democrats and the Republicans. It's the blacks and the whites. It's the Jews. We can agree to disagree and not hate each other. Yeah. But social media has a way of nonverbal communication, of starting fires, creating wars, and then block and delete, and you lose what you spent a lifetime building up. I had a lifetime. Dexter was in my muscle camp that I had in 2003. He wasn't Mr. Olympia in 2003. Ronnie was. And he was a great person. So here, when you start hearing the noise and you let the noise take hold, you can start disliking people, and people will jump on the bandwagon because that person doesn't like that person. And suddenly the haters have a voice. And I'm smart enough and wise enough now that when I see anything that's derogatory or negative on my social media, I block and delete because I'm not going to give you a foothold in my universe to come with negativity. And if you don't know who I am by now, then you're going to have to Google me because I'm not slowing down. I just signed with Mutant. So I've got a whole nother lease on life. I've
Yes.
been with one of the #1 fitness equipment companies called Real Leader USA. I'm outfitting gyms. Kevin Levroni's just got a shipment. Jay Cutler's little gym that he works out in Las Vegas, the Las Vegas Fit Athletic Club. They just took on some of our Real Leader equipment. The gym in San Diego has our gym equipment. JJ March, a former guy I competed with in Arizona, he bought our equipment. So I'm now able to take this gym equipment that we built our bodies and pay it forward and make special deals with people that want to do what I made a living doing, right? Yeah. So that's all. Talking about gym equipment is not talking about supplements. And running a show promotion like this has nothing to do with equipment, has nothing to do with supplements, right? And I'm raising 2 teenage daughters, right? So I'm in a very good place because of bodybuilding. And I think that when you find your quan, when you find your happiness and your sweet spot, you stay there.
Yes.
Like I have tentacles going in different directions.
Yeah.
I work with a watch company called S-Force Watches. I'm sponsored by Fascia Blaster, which helps break up the fascia tissue. I work with a tortilla company that's an official sponsor of the Mr. Olympia. I brought on Rich Gaspari, Lee Labrada, and Lee Haney to be my anchors at the Mr. Olympia this year, 57 years. And I brought on these guys were all on my wall when I started bodybuilding.
Yeah, me too, man.
And now they're my co-hosts talking about bodybuilding in the classic 212 and the open division because I work for the contest owner and promoter, Dan Solomon and Jake Wood.
Yes.
I'm in with those guys, and I'm an editor of an online site where I actually report on the business of bodybuilding that has nothing to do with me and has everything to do with what's going on in the bodybuilding world. So I'm in a very good place. I have absolutely nothing to complain about. I'm healthy. I have zero aches and pains. I have these things going on with these guys where they can come down here and train with me. I just came back. I trained a guy. I put it out there. If you want to train with me, I'll give you the OG training. Step up. And I'm giving these guys opportunities to come out and actually train with somebody that's been there and done that. Like, think about it. Mike Tyson's retired, right? I keep going back to Mike, but Mike's retired. If you're a fighter coming up in the game and you have a chance to go and spar with Mike, I mean, listen, Mike is not fighting for the title anymore, so he's not gonna give you the business, but he still has it up here. Yeah. And he still knows the mechanics and he knows the ins and outs. And you're a fighter coming up. If you're a historian and you love boxing and you have that opportunity, you take it.
Yes.
So that's what I'm doing. I made a commentary the other day that the only thing that we have on the other side of 50, which is the back 9, is you realize you can't take it with you. Mm-hmm. This is not something that I can take with me. Whatever I spent my life trying to do, getting the unofficial PhD, MBA, master's degree in bodybuilding, I cannot take all of that with me. So I want to leave it in as many places and in as many people as I can, conversationally, physically, as a promoter, as a brand ambassador, whether it's the equipment, the supplements, the Fascia Blaster, the tortillas, or the watches that I take off my wrist and I give to an up and coming guy. Yeah. I know what that means to the guy that wants to sit in this chair.
Yes.
Because I was that kid looking at John Brown, wanting to sit in that chair, ride in that Mercedes, walk into those football stadiums and go into those nightclubs, have the hot chick on my arm. I know what that's like. So I like working with young people because they're like sponges.
Yeah.
And those other fans of the other athletes that despise what I do, they despise what I stand for. The greatest success for me is just showing them that I'm not quitting.
Yes.
And that I'm still in love with my first love. And I can't have it all. I got my wife. I got my kids. I'm happy.
And I'm so glad, like, I hope this doesn't sound silly, but I'm so glad you have it all, Shawn, because you've worked your ass off. You know, you stay working, you stay busy, but it's important, it is important that there are achievers, and because people need to be, everybody needs an example. They need their John Brown. They need their Shawn Ray. And it's important. And if I were a 22-year-old competitor today and at the national level, someone that maybe had some, had a real opportunity of making an impact, I would absolutely seek mentorship in somebody like you. And the body, you're a Hall of Fame, not only were you a Hall of Famer and in your career, did you achieve those things in a first person perspective, but again, like you said, your tentacles are in so many ways, in so many different things. So it's just, there's so much to learn from there. And I'm glad you're able to make a good living and be social and stay happy. And it's, and I'm listening to everything you're saying, and I'm still learning. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I think this is what I pictured. You know, some people, they don't look on the long game. It's the short game, because we're dieting in weeks. We have our contests in months, and we blink and the years go by and they go by, and then it's over.
yeah.
And I was always trying to make sure I stayed one step ahead. I think we are all a little bit of what we surround ourselves with. So if you're hanging out with the wrong crowd, don't be surprised when you go to jail.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised when you're in the middle of some trouble.
Yes.
I try to surround myself with a very diverse group of people that are different from me. And one of the things I just recently got involved with is a wealth builders group where they talk about money management, retirement, 401ks, stocks and bonds.
Yeah.
Never been part of my conversation coming up as a kid, because we're all about protein and supplements and training. But when you hear this kind of dialogue where you're in a room with 200 people and they're telling you, you know, what's going to happen to $1,000 in 5 years and where you can divest and invest and what's coming around the bend, these are conversations that don't happen in the house. They're not going to happen in the gym. They're not going to happen with your best friend, because most of us, when it comes to money management, it's a solo, independent, figure it out as you go.
Yes.
When I say this again, MBA, master's, doctorate, as a bodybuilder, I feel like I have that. So don't expect to come to me and for $50, which is what you pay the trainer at LA Fitness to train you, don't expect that that's what you're going to get. If I go to a doctor, if I go to a lawyer for legal advice, I know I got to dig a little bit deeper in my pocket, because I want the best of what they have to offer me. Yes. And they charge you according to their education and their skill set. Right. So this is like a celebrity training situation. Mm-hmm. When you look at bodybuilding, it is an expensive enterprise. Yes. The girls have to pay $1,000 for these bikinis. They're paying $150 to get tanned. Some shows they're paying $150, $200 just to compete. They're spending $200 to $300 a night on a hotel. They're spending $500, $600 on a plane ticket. They got to buy the contest tickets for their family and friends to be there. I mean, you got to get your supplements, then you got to pay your posing coach, and then you got to pay your meal prep company, then you got to pay your trainer. I mean, so when you come to a professional like me, yeah, you're going to pay.
Yes.
But you're going to leave with that experience of wealth of information, because the last thing I want you to do is feel like you got ripped off or shortchanged. And don't think you're going to come and have an exercise session. I'm going to put you through a workout. And I'm there to answer the questions, because again, I got to get it out of me. I do not want to take anything that I know that can help somebody else in this industry with me. Our days are numbered at birth. I have no idea how long I'm going to be on this planet. The last thing you want to live with is regret. Yes. And as selfish as bodybuilding is, and I know it, it's a selfish sport. That's why I stayed away from trying to like settle down as a bodybuilder. Yeah. Missed many birthdays and missed many parties. There's so much when I think back what I missed. I promised myself when I was done, I'm not going to miss it. And so if you go through my feed, you'll see some pictures of me sitting around some nice pools. You'll see me at the ocean. You'll see me at various resorts. You know, when I was bodybuilding, I was cooking those 6 and 7 meals a day, and I was sitting there with my dog, and I wasn't at the restaurant, and it was day after day, month after month, week after week, and I'm traveling the world alone. I'm coming home. I got no voice messages because I didn't have time to establish friendships with people when I'm training for a show. I was by myself, and now I have the luxury and the freedom to go sit at a 5-star hotel, put my feet up by the pool, drink a margarita or have a beer or have a glass of wine, eat some pizza bread. Yes. Every chance I get to do that, I do it. I do it because I'm trying to make up for the time when I couldn't do it, the years, the decades I wasn't able to do it. And then I take a picture of it and I share it with people because, you know, I'm just a bodybuilder. That guy's just a body. I'm just like you. I'm nothing special. And at the end of the day, it's perspective. So I'm showing people out their perspective of what your sweat equity could amount to. Yes. When I looked at Tom Platz driving the Corvette in the magazines, it just looked like a fantasy. And then one day I got a Corvette. Right. And don't think that the day I got my Corvette, I didn't think of Tom Platz. Right. It was the cover of Flex magazine. He goes in a video. He's driving down the PCH in Santa Monica, Malibu. I remember. Yeah. So when it was my turn, took the top off, and I'm driving. And the first person I'm thinking about was Tom Platz, right? Yeah. Bob Paris. When I saw him dressed, he came to the freaking like the Mr. Olympia press conference, like dressed like a GQ fashion model. I said, well, I'm not going to be that bodybuilder that shows up wearing sweats.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a time and a place for a certain look. And these things remind me. And I go, you know what? I'm sitting here. I'm in Hawaii. There's Diamond Head. There's the Royal Hawaiian. Give me a Mai Tai, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm going to show my friends. I'm going to take the picture, not me. And I'm not even in the shot. You might see my feet because it's a perspective,
Right.
but bodybuilding brought me here.
Yeah.
And I know that there's athletes out there that are looking at me and looking at those pictures, and they're not going, he's showing off, or what he needs to get a job and stop eating steak every day. And why is he always drinking wine? Is he a wino? I'm taking the time to smell the roses from the fruit of my labor that the iron and the steel provided. And all of that inspiration came from Samir Banu, Bob Paris, Mike Christian, Lee Haney, John Brown, all the guys that came before me.
Right.
I visualized it. I believed it. I became it. And now I'm at a place where I can help these other athletes become it too. So I'm joining Mutant. They said, I'm going to build this Mutantnation. I'm going to go out there and start baptizing mutants. So when they come to train with me, they survive the workout. They're going to get a reward. And then we're going to create opportunities where you can come with me and be my friend at the Mr. Olympia. Go backstage. You're going to come out and sit at my show in Hawaii. Come out and compete in my show. There's so many opportunities that I've been given working with these various companies that I can give it all back. There's none of this. All I wanted was security. I'm able to put myself in a place where I'm secure. My kids are healthy. I'm healthy. And so the extra stuff, I can start giving it back. There's nobody doing that. I just don't see it. The camaraderie's gone. It's not there.
No, it's not. And this is this is great for the sport. This is awesome for the sport, and it's amazing. And for the athletes out there, everybody should just do a run on Mutant. And if I would be all over the Olympia, I would do everything I could to affiliate and be a part of this, because honestly, it's going to be a movement. And we all want to belong to a team. You know, there's security in numbers, and bodybuilding is so mysterious, man. Even with the wealth of knowledge that's at the end of our fingertips on the internet, doesn't mean it's true.
Absolutely. And we are living in some very, very strange times, because it only takes one post, one political post, one racist post to bring you down. You know, you saw what happened with Chris Harrison on The Bachelor, right? I like watching that. And he says one wrong thing and he's gone, right? Yeah. So when you are on social media, you got to realize your audience, and what are you putting out? Because what you put out is going to come back. If you're putting out non-motivational, non-inspirational stuff, drawing judgment on other people, knocking people because of the color of their skin or their orientation or their financial disposition, it's not the same as criticizing a bodybuilder and breaking a bodybuilder down. So you cannot let that merge into your perception of what a person's like, because listen, Simon Cowell made a career out of judging whether you can sing or not. Right. And if you had the guts to get up there and you sound like a pigeon, and he called you a pigeon and he told you, stop wasting my time, get the hell out. Well, bodybuilding is the same way. Yeah. Listen, if you're going to come out there in your Speedos and you're going to stand up there and take up our time, and you know you didn't do the work, be ready for what you're about to hear. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Yeah. And even on the professional side, if you're going to come out there, you're going to have stuff shot up in your shoulders. You're going to have gyno from the overuse of the steroids that you're taking. Yeah. You're going to have pox all over your skin because you're using drug. You're going to hear that from me, because I'm not going to ignore the elephant in the room, because that's not reflective of what we're trying to promote. Right. You want to embarrass yourself? Come on out and get embarrassed. You come out with the pink hair and you don't tell me about why. You know, it's Cancer Awareness Month, Shawn. Right. I colored my hair pink because someone in my family has cancer. Right. I'll make sure the audience knows that. Right. Of instead course. Of try to figure out why you got the pink hair. Right. I mean, it stands to reason that if you're going to be outrageous and you're going to do something crazy on that stage, and you're not going to tell the people that are professionals what you're about to do, then you're going to get in real time exactly what I'm thinking. Exactly. I don't apologize.
No, not at all. And again, the competitor, it's short-sighted for them, because you'd want to control the narrative. And of course, if you're going to do something like that, you would want the world to know. So you should communicate that, you know, but these are learning experiences, you know, for them and those. So where can people, I know we come up a little bit on time. Where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they have questions about Mutant or training or anything in general?
Well, I'm doing well on my Instagram under Shawn Ray IFBB Pro. People send me DMs all the time. I'm pretty active there. I've got my Shawn Ray page on Facebook, The Real Shawn Ray, and I'm on just regular Facebook too. But you can go to my website at shawnray.fitness. You can obviously check out the show that's coming up, the Shawn Ray Hawaiian Classic. Did I tell you about the Shawn Ray Hawaiian Classic? I'm out there. I'm easy to find. I hide in broad daylight. But again, when you start talking about whether or not I'm content. I'm content. I need my haters. They don't bother me. Nothing stays under my skin. I'd rather have friends than enemies. But I know who my enemies are. They're hell bent. They're hell bent on trying to be derogatory. And things like this with Mutant and with the Fascia Blaster and the companies I represent, they all remind me of my worth, and they remind me of my sweat equity and my commitment and my sacrifice to the sport of bodybuilding, that I stayed with it. The ones that win are the ones that are able to hold on long enough. But it takes a certain passion to do that, because this sport is ripe with failure. It's ripe with cynicism. It can break you. And when you don't get what you want, when you want it, you can lose sight of the bigger picture that, time will come, things will change, opportunity will knock. And, you may not be a professional. You may not be able to go to the Olympia, but you might be able to learn enough through training that you might become a great trainer. Sure. Charles Glass is still training people. Charles Glass was training people when I turned pro in 1987. Right. And so if you're able to hang on long enough, the good fortune can change. But this is not a sport that you cannot do, that you can do, and you can't love it. You have to love it. Yes. And luckily my mentors, Joe Weider, I work with Steve Bleckman, I work with Robert Kennedy, I work with some of the greatest photographers, and Bill Dobbins and Chris Lund and Robert Reeve and Mike Nevue and John Balick. Of course you leave a few of them out,
no, but all of these all these names are just, it's the memories that flood in my mind as you list these people. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, I had a great tutelage under Weider, and now I'm working with the newest owner, with Jake Wood, who has a different vision for the sport. We actually have a fan that owns the Olympia, right? So there's some things because of COVID that were slowed down, but soon we'll be back in Las Vegas, which is where everybody wants it. I lobbied to get it there. Me and Paul Dillette were very instrumental in getting it there. But, in Florida, it's kind of a switch up. But, I mean, it's still the Olympia, and I haven't missed it since 1988. So when people start talking about, you have to show us the receipts. Well, 1988 was my first Olympia that I was ever in, and I never missed one since. I've been to every single one in person. The Arnold Classic started in 1989. The Gaspari one, I was in attendance, and I won it the year later. Lost it because I failed the drug test, but I came back in 91, and I've never missed that show in 33 years. Wow. I work for and with Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the greatest bodybuilders ever. I MC his amateur division on that show. I am just beyond connected to yesterday's past and the future coming up. I was talking with Lee Labrada the other day. His son's competing this weekend at the Chicago Pro. And I'm attached to his son Hunter. I'm watching this next generation. I remember when he was a baby in 1985 or 6 when Lee married Robin. And of course, Lee Haney's going to be here in Atlanta at the show. I'll be getting an interview with him. So it's really, I mean, when I say bodybuilding has been very, very good to me, a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with making money. The money that I make, I earn, but the memories, the friendships, the knowledge, you take it with you, right? So that's why I'm so eager to give it back.
Yeah. Shawn, thank you. Thank you for all that. And one final thought too. Thank you again for all your work with Digital Muscle Media as well. You do some amazing interviews, and I visit those all. Man, I watched the Gary Newman one this morning, or excuse me, Dennis Newman this morning, and I was just like, man, what a great conversation,
the old school reminds us of where we once were and actually what we really miss, some of these people.
Yeah. And it's important to highlight people that have interesting stories too, like him. I encourage people to go check that out. But and some of the amazing other ones you've done. But it's awesome. I can't wait to see the Lee Haney one. I'll definitely check that out.
Yeah, I'll get that this weekend, and it'll be up by next week.
Awesome. Shawn, thank you again. This was a true pleasure of mine. I hope we can do it again. I am so excited about Mutant. I'm going to follow and do everything I can to help promote it alongside you.
Right on. I just finished with one more thing.
Please.
A lot of people, they always ask me about my sunglasses. Why do I wear my sunglasses all the time? First of all, my eyes are light sensitive, and they always have been. I had LASIK eye surgery in 2004 to get my vision corrected, which was fine. But when you get too much light, sometimes I tear up and I automatically start crying. I was always instructed to wear sunglasses to protect your eyes, right? So I try to do that because you don't know when your eyes are going to go, when the vision's going to fade. And the only way that I could ensure that my vision wouldn't fade is to try to protect them at all costs. I take that serious. It's coming from an expert, right? Like I'm hearing it from my doctor. So you got people, why is he wearing his sunglasses inside? Is he trying to be cool? Blah, blah. I hate to try to keep explaining it, but when you go through and you see all my pictures, I'm wearing my sunglasses. It wasn't something that just started happening. I've always worn my sunglasses, right? But now people are like, what are you hiding from? And why are you always wearing them? So I want to just give you some clarity. I don't have the best of eyes. I'm actually now wearing reading glasses. But nonetheless, my eyes water when there's extreme light or a long part of light. So my eyes start to water and I just try to protect them. It's nothing big.
No, I'm glad it's funny. I'm glad you addressed that because I've definitely seen that over the years and I've never personally dedicated much thought to it, but
some people do. You should see the DMs. It's like, why do you wear your glasses?
I'm sure you've heard it. Yeah.
I put it out. There's my response. I'll share it all over the country.
Yeah, we got it. No, it's so funny. It's so I never would have put it together, but it definitely makes sense to me. And I have light eyes, so I actually have very sensitive eyes as well. So I completely understand. Yeah.
Well, it's like wearing a weightlifting belt. You go to the gym to protect your back. Nothing's happening today, but if you don't protect it, shit can happen.
And it's our vision. Like there's very few things. Look, I can live without taste buds. I don't know that I can live without seeing my daughter ever again.
There you go. Right on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you,
Shawn. This was fantastic. Thank you again so much for taking the time and sharing all this with us. Again, this was completely my pleasure.
All right, brother. Take care.
Thank you, Shawn.
All righty.